cross over to Michigan, joined by senior editor of Veterans Today, Gordon Duff. Gordon, good to have you with us. Tell me your assessment of what has taken place today, this Hezbollah attack on Israel, Israeli military vehicle. That so far we have reports of casualties and injuries according to Hezbollah, and also accordingly perhaps an Israeli general having been killed. Your thoughts?
Well, the first thing I did, and as a member of the media, and you and I have been doing this together for now many years, I ran to the Times of Israel, which is their intelligence agency-owned fake news bureau. Nothing happened. They had a picture of a fire there. And of course, you're never shooting at a general. It was shooting at an ambulance. It's always an ambulance or an orphanage. There are no military command centers. Once you hit one, it's an orphanage. It's a constant game they play. Measured response from Hezbollah. We know Hezbollah. This is a different Hezbollah than Israel has any understanding of. And I do talk to these guys. I mean, I'm media. And they just don't understand that Hezbollah has been trained by the Russians. They've been fighting well with tanks and aircraft for years. They understand military operation. Frankly, Hezbollah has more high-end combat experience than the IDF has. The IDF is an occupation force of resentful draftees that love dropping missiles into civilian neighborhoods and plowing over people's homes or running prison camps. They're prison camp guards. We used to call people like that SS, but that's not a popular term to use anymore. There's a second story behind this. A couple of weeks ago, Trump went to war with the mainstream Jewish population in the United States for not supporting him, and they don't support him at all. America's majority Jewish population are Democrats. But the other thing that's been happening here is they are, to a less and less extent, buying in on Israel. They just don't care about this because Trump's love and support for Israel and his embarrassing, horrific behavior, and particularly toward Iran. And this has been simply irrational. The whole idea of having an agreement with Iran was to them to supply security for Israel. Breaking that agreement now has led to what we're going to assume are these deaths, and particularly the death of an Israeli general. And a lot more people are going to die. And if you think Hezbollah people are afraid of dying, you've never met anybody from Hezbollah. They could care. Can the Israelis take the casualties? Not hardly. They don't have the nerve for it.
All right. Well, stay with me. Let me get Eric Wahlberg, author and journalist, in on this discussion out of Toronto. Thanks so much for being with us, Eric. I want to talk about what seems to be a lack of escalation now, or continuation of this tense situation. We saw Hezbollah attack the Israeli military vehicle, and then, of course, Israel bombing some areas in southern Lebanon, some villages. But the situation is calm right now. Your take on Israel's response, or it seems not wanting to escalate the situation any further. Your analysis of that side of things.
Well, they must recognize that the Hezbollah attack was in response to their invasion and attacking in Syria and Lebanon, and this. So it made sense. They were expecting something. So if a general is killed, that's very significant. But there was only one target, whereas Israel said, "Oh, we sent out 100 targets." So they're bragging that they think the more destruction you do, the better your politics is. So I think there has been escalation, just in certainly the Israeli count, but maybe that's overstated. So, but what really bothers me is that Israel is using these attacks. They're using them now as a strategy to try and provoke war. I think that's it. They want a big response.
Well, let me just stop you right there, Eric, because that is an interesting analysis. That now Israel can use this to try to basically go to war. But I guess many would ask, so on the one hand, if basically you don't respond and you just act like sitting ducks and let Israel do whatever it wants inside of your territory, for example, inside of Lebanon, no one is going to do anything against Israel as far as the international community or the United Nations. However, if an entity then defends itself against Israelis, Israelis try to turn it around as if they are defending themselves and then actually perhaps even start a war. So I guess the question then would be, what's the answer here?
Well, Israel wants to see itself in the same way that the U.S. does, that it can invade and attack other countries and above international law. So that's what it's been doing for the past few months in Syria and in Lebanon. Now because there wasn't really much response, because Iranian targets, if that's what they were, this did not provoke any response in retaliation. So they're just pushing the envelope as far as they can. They think that they should be able to get away with acting above international law in their own interests. So that's the situation. And the fact that Hezbollah did respond and was a good targeted response shows that there's still the Hezbollah and Syria are not cowed by this bullying behavior.
Well, Gordon, what about this? I mean, we look at, we're looking at, it seems, some live images there from south of Lebanon, Maroun al-Ras, one of the towns that was attacked earlier by Israeli gunships. Things are calm now, and as darkness, of course, has taken over there. But Gordon, looking at the situation, the importance of, you had talked about Hezbollah's experience, and of course we know that Hezbollah has been very much involved in the situation in Syria and has gained even more experience than they had before. And strategically, the importance of, for example, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, announcing what is going to happen ahead of time and the Israelis not being able to stop it. Of course, he didn't say specifically, but he said that Hezbollah would definitely retaliate.
Well, you've got, as far as arming Hezbollah, for instance, the Israelis have been so concerned about Russian weapons getting into the hands of Hezbollah. And they're always attacking a warehouse next to an airport somewhere. It's their daily move in Syria. The problem is that Hezbollah is loaded with American weapons. They've got American Stinger missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, and the range is limited on those. And they're not effective against the F-35 if Israel chooses to use those over Lebanon. But America's newest and best TOW missiles are quite excellent. And Hezbollah has hundreds of them. They got them from Al-Qaeda. And Al-Qaeda got them from the United States. And now Hezbollah has them because they were left behind when Hezbollah took out the ISIS and Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, Al-Sham, or whatever you want to call them, their units inside Syria. And behind this, we've got a couple pieces of further afield issue. The recent attacks inside Iraq, Maliki has been very specific, as have other members, not just Shiite, it's crossing over to the Sunni side as well, that they're tired of Israel working closely with the Kurds. So the Kurds are becoming increasingly afraid of that alliance, secret alliance they've had with Israel, and are cozying up to Damascus. The United Arab Emirates is finding itself increasingly fearful as well, and their alliance in Bahrain and elsewhere and in Yemen with the Saudis is coming to an end. There have been military skirmishes now between the UAE and Saudi-backed troops inside Yemen. So this web of fear here that Israel and Saudi Arabia and their other allies have been building, this network against Iran to isolate Iran, has pretty much backfired. And behind this, the questions we always ask, and I've got a news bureau in Damascus, and they sit there in a hotel lobby with the Russians every day. And the Russians keep saying, well, we're going to get tired of Israel someday and do something about it. We're all waiting on that. When Israel and Russia come to blows, and it may well happen. Remember, it was only a few months back that the Israelis, following an airliner, attacked and downed a Russian plane, killing the crew, and was it 15 or so? Mm. And inside Russia, that hasn't been forgotten, not at all. And the Russians will, as we're seeing here with Hezbollah, are going to want their pound of flesh, and they're eventually going to get it.
Well, Eric, your thoughts on, we mentioned earlier the possibility, we have reports of that general being killed in, of course, the general who represented the northern command of the Israeli forces. Now, if this is the case, not only about the significance of this, but the importance of the intelligence of having that information, Hezbollah having that information and then being able to target him.
It's very impressive. I'm impressed that Hezbollah has such capabilities, and I think that this is an important lesson for Israel. It thinks it's playing the game with inferior, weaker opponents, and it can push them around, and it can't do that, and it's beginning to realize it. So I think, but otherwise, it's war. It seems the provocations of Israel over the last few months, since ISIS has been almost completely wiped out, it now wants to move in, and there's a vacuum that it wants to partially fill for the control of what's going on in the region. So it's still very much up in the air what's going to happen with this latest.
Arise, O God, arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt have an inheritance among God stood in the congregation of the gods, and in the midst he shall stand out among gods.
Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt have an inheritance among all the nations.
How long will ye judge unrighteously, and accept the person of sinners? Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt have an inheritance among all the nations. Judge for the orphan and the poor man, do justice to the humble and the pauper. Rescue the poor man and the needy from the hand of the sinner, and deliver him. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt have an inheritance among all the nations. They have not known nor understood, they walk in darkness, let all the foundations of the earth be shaken.
Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt have an inheritance among all the nations.
I said, ye are gods, and all of you the sons of the Most High, but like men ye die, and like one of the rulers do ye fall. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt have an inheritance among all the nations.
بحبك يا لبنان، يا وطني بحبك، بشمالك بجنوبك، بسهلك